okay.
I know some of you here like to be all neat and tidy, line things up, keep things at right angles, etc. If this is you, then you can use the various guides to make you feel less itchy. Grid Snap is most useful for this. Look in the menu under Guides. Turn on Grid Snap with X, and then you can make the grid coarser or finer. Now, when you move an object, you'll see that it snaps to a grid. Turning on Obey Auto Guides will also help with moving and placing stuff. It literally means behave as you do in the home space. Depending on which item you select, it will try to make it easier to place for you. This behaviour is determined by the creator of each individual item, with a gadget we'll discuss elsewhere. In most cases, it will make the object align to the surface of other objects. Go ahead, have a practice at using the guides, then when you're ready, we'll move on to the next step. So, let's add some new objects to the scene without using the clone tool. If you can't see your menu, remember to press the square button to make it appear. For some new objects, we'll need to go and search the Dreamiverse. Do that by clicking this button on the assembly menu. You can go looking for whatever you want, but for the sake of this tutorial, we'll stick to the Dreamiverse collection. So make sure you're in there. Go in and choose a bounce pad with X. You can now stamp some objects into the scene using either X or R2, whichever you prefer. Let's turn on Obey Auto Guides, so it's easier to put these things on the floor. Go to the menu, select Guides, then Obey Auto Guides. Let's get another object, a balloon. Now, make sure all the guides are off and stamp a balloon in the air. Before I stamp it though, note that I can rotate it using the touchpad. Just slide your finger on the touchpad in different directions to rotate it. While we're on the subject of rotating, let me show some other ways to do this. Try grabbing something by holding R2, then use the touchpad to rotate it, just like we did before we stamped the balloon. Another way is to grab and hold with L2 instead of R2. You can now rotate the object using the motion sensor by physically rotating your controller. Note that it rotates around the point you grabbed with the imp tip. And finally, using the L2 grab method, you can also use the left and right sticks to rotate. If you rotate using the left and right sticks like this, the gyro method, by which I mean using the motion sensor, will be disabled until you re-grab. So go ahead, try putting some new elements into the scene. Once you're comfortable with this, you know all you need to know to go off and put some new scenes together. Go to Dream Shaping, start a new game scene, and use other people's objects and characters you find in the Dreamiverse. This will get you a long way. If you feel like learning some more though, stick around and hit next when ready. So, by now you know how to build a scene from scratch. But let's explore a really quick and easy way to add some movement and bring your scenes to life. Let's animate a part of the track using Dream's very own special version of motion capture. Make sure time is paused and that you have rewound the scene. First off, find something you feel could do with a bit of movement in it. Then grab it with R2 and practice the movement you'd like it to do. Remember, you can use the left directional button to undo if you accidentally leave it in an odd place. Don't be too precious right now. We'll learn how to be more precise later on. Let's just get something moving to learn the principle. Okay, when you feel you've got a good idea of what movement you're going to do, open the menu with the square button, find the animate button, and grab yourself an action recorder. You'll now have an action recorder gadget on the end of your imp. You may notice that all other gadgets in the scene have appeared, if you'd previously hidden them. We want to see gadgets now, so this is all fine. Stamp it into the scene with the X button. You can move this later if you like. Just put it out of the way for now, in the corner for example. This object will capture and store the performance you are about to make. Once you've placed it, it will be armed and ready to start recording. But don't panic. It isn't actually recording yet. Take your time, breathe. Only when you grab the item you want to move will the recording start. So let's do it. Remember, it will only record while you are actually grabbing something, unless you have time running already. So you can let go, have a cough or a sneeze for example, then re-grab and carry on adding more movement if you like. If you feel that you want to start again, just hit the retake button. You'll have a fresh recording attempt. When you feel you're happy enough, press the stop recording button to finish capturing your moves. Congratulations! You just officially became an animator. Start time using this button, or use the R3 shortcut, and hey presto, movement. By default, things animated with this technique will loop forever. If you want to learn more about animating, then check out the animation tutorials. Now, not only do you know how to collage a scene together, you can animate it too. So there's really nothing to stop you making some great platforming style games now. Go on, have a go. Press next to learn about some more exciting stuff. Let's get a bit deeper now. Assuming you haven't gone triangle button mad and deleted everything in the scene, there will be some objects in there that you can modify in ways other than just deleting them or moving them. Let's find one of these bounce pads, for example. Let's turn on electronics, as we want to look at those now. If they aren't already visible, then go to the Show Hide on the menu and make sure electronics are turned on. Notice, if you hover over the object you animated, you'll see the path that it follows. And the gadget the animation is in will throb. You can delete the gadget with the triangle button if you want, or leave it. It's up to you. Position your IMS tip over the object and select it with X. You'll then see these contextual buttons appear. This bounce pad isn't actually a single object. It's a few objects that have been grouped together. But we can go into this group to mess around with the individual members of it, much like going into a folder on a computer. Press this button to scope into the group. You'll notice everything else go grey and blurred, except the things in the group. Yes, some of these things are still colourful. They're a special case, which we'll ignore for now. Pressing the Hide Everything Else button will make it super clear what is in this group, as it will hide everything else. We are now scoped into this bounce pad, and you'll notice that a gadget has appeared, which was invisible before. Gadgets will hide themselves unless you are in the same scope as them. There are exceptions to this, but we don't need to concern ourselves with those right now. So, you can go back or leave this scope by pressing this button in the corner. You can also use a shortcut to scope in. Out. Hover over the object, hold L1 and tap X. This will take us in. Holding L1 and tapping circle button will take us out. In, out, in, out. Shake it all about. So, make sure you are in the bounce pad scope. You should see this gadget, a microchip. You can recognize a microchip by this little symbol. We can look inside the guts of a microchip by either selecting it with X and using the Open Microchip button, or by holding L1 and tapping X. This will tunnel us into the microchip and reveal some of its inner workings on its circuit board. It's possible you may be looking at the back of the circuit board when you first open it. If that happens, then simply move your camera to look at it from a better position. Or you can also use the L1 plus R1 trick on the circuit board to quickly zip to a better viewing position. We won't concern ourselves right now with everything on this circuit board. Let's just try changing the value on this slider using X. This will affect how high the bounce pad sends the character. Try ramping it up, and then switch to play mode to try it out. Remember, you've only changed one bounce pad though, not all of them, so try to remember which one you changed. Come back into edit mode and locate the bounce pad microchip that you left open. You can close a circuit board by pressing this little button in the corner, or by hovering the IMP tip over the board itself and pressing the L1 and circle button shortcut. But feel free to leave it open if you wish. You can happily scope out of the bounce pad, but leave the circuit board open. You won't need to scope in now to change the slider, but once closed, you'll have to scope in again to see the microchip and open it up. Lots of the items in the scene have a circuit board with a slider or two on. So hunt around the scene, scope in, find them, experiment. Come back when you feel ready to learn some more. Did you come across any camera pointers or trigger zones in your explorations yet? No? Then let's find one. There should be one right near the start gate. Assuming you haven't deleted them all, they look like this. This is a trigger zone, and this is a camera pointer. Notice that when you hover your imp tip over either of these gadgets, a wire will appear. This shows us that they're connected to each other. A trigger zone is a way of saying, when something enters a certain area, do something. In this case, the trigger zone activates the camera pointer. When the cone character is in the trigger zone, a camera pointer will force the camera to look in a defined direction. If you select the trigger zone with the X button, then you'll see the area that it cares about. You might need to zoom out a bit to see it fully. If you position your imp tip over the green zone, you'll see that arrows appear. These show us that we can change the dimensions of the area. Just hold down R2 and drag. Press the circle button to deselect the trigger zone. There is another way to change the parameters of a trigger zone that gives you more control, but I'll save that for another time. We'll keep it simple for now. If you now select the camera pointer, you'll see some arrows appear. These show you the way the gadget wants to make the camera look. If you grab the camera pointer gadget by holding L2 instead of R2, you'll be able to change the defined angle. Use either the sticks or motion sensor. Let's look over here, and we'll see a trigger zone that has multiple wires coming off it. We can trace these wires to see what they are connected to. Handy little tip. If you use the L1 plus R1 trick on a wire, it'll take you to the other end of it. Very handy. We can see that we are connected to this large microchip. We'll take a look in there later. The other two wires are connected to camera pointers. If there's more than one camera pointer connected to a trigger zone, then the camera will blend between the two defined angles, based on how close the character is to each one. It's also worth noting, if you have a camera pointer in a scene that isn't connected to a trigger zone, then it will be on all the time and take away a player's ability to manually control the camera angle. When you feel you've understood trigger zones and camera pointers, why not try adding your own somewhere? You'll find the bits you need under Gadgets in the menu. Trigger zones live in Sensors and Input. And camera pointers live in Cameras and Lighting. Simply stamp them into the scene and connect them like so. Grab this little port with X or R2 and connect it to the power port on the camera pointer. Have a little play, and when you feel you've got it, we can move on to the next step. Okay, let's start messing around with some other stuff. First of all, if you haven't already found it, find the big microchip labelled Level Logic. You see this little symbol down here? Remember, this tells us that this is indeed a microchip and has some exciting stuff inside to look at. To take a look inside, we can select it and press the Open Microchip button, or hover over it with your imp tip, hold L1 and press X. This will reveal the guts of the microchip. Don't be put off by the word microchip, by the way. It's just like a cupboard. You can put stuff in it, and it helps to keep things neat and tidy. You can close it again by clicking the close icon, or by holding L1 and pressing the circle button. either on the chip itself or on the revealed circuit board. So let's take a look at what this microchip contains. First of all, we have a sun and sky gadget. This will let us change some parameters regarding the sun and sky. So let's do that. But first, remember how I said microchips have this symbol on the corner, like this? Well, we can see the sun and sky gadget, which looks very similar to a microchip, doesn't have the symbol. This isn't like a cupboard. This is more like a cup in a cupboard. Are you keeping up with me? Feel free to go and get a cup of tea. It's pretty simple. There are microchips and gadgets. Microchips have this little symbol, gadgets don't. Why am I going on about this, I hear you say? Well, to get inside a microchip, as I've already said, we can use the L1 and X shortcut. But to see what delights a gadget has to offer, we use a different shortcut. We use L1 and square button, often referred to as tweaking. Or, of course, you can simply select it and use the tweak button on the context menu. Why not use the same button for opening a microchip and a gadget, I hear you say? Good question. I'm going to answer that. Microchips can be both opened up and tweaked. If you use the tweak shortcut on a microchip, L1 and square remember, then you'll get the microchip's tweak menu, not its circuit board. On a microchip's tweak menu, you can change its color and the icon it displays, amongst other things. You'll care more about this when you start making your own microchips, but for now, we'll just close this. I thought it was worth showing you, as it's inevitable you'll accidentally open a chip's tweak menu when you meant to open its circuit board. But no need to worry, you'll soon get used to it. So, anyway, let's tweak this sun and sky gadget. L1 plus square button. Notice that if I move the camera around, the tweak menu will follow me. This is their default behavior. If you prefer it not to do that, then simply press this little button here, and it will sit in the world. This tweak menu has 2 pages. First page controls the sun brightness and color, etc. But let's look on the second page. Select this tab by pressing the X button with the imp tip. By holding down the X button and dragging these sliders, you can change the color and brightness of the sky. I can grab the whole menu by holding down R2 if I want to move it to see more clearly. Remember, X button to change something on a tweak menu, R2 to grab and move the whole menu. Let's change a few sliders and see what happens. Now, let's take a look at this grade and effects gadget. These apply effects and colors to the whole screen. Have a little muck around, test it out in play mode, and if you're feeling really ambitious, why not try hooking up a trigger zone to a grade or sky gadget and see what happens? Note that if you have more than one grade or sky gadget in a scene, and they are active at the same time, they will average out their settings with the other gadgets of the same type. When you're ready, come back for the final step in this masterclass. So let's finish up by looking in this gadget here, Global Settings. Remember, L1 plus square button to get at its tweak menu. We can use this to set how strong gravity is in the scene, for example. Be sure to tick this button on or it will ignore the setting. As for the rest of the stuff in here, feel free to take a look inside. I won't go into detail, we've covered enough in one tutorial, but just to give you an overview, let's skim over them. This chip handles a firework display at the end of a race. This one hides the finish gate until you're halfway around the track, to stop players cheating. But you could solve that with careful scene design, or simply not having a looping track, for example. This chip handles the music, and it's a rather fancy way of doing things. It does different things depending on whereabouts in the race you are, but you can just stamp a simple piece of music into the scene if you like, job done. Or have no music at all, of course. This chip here puts up some simple text instructions, and finally, some more audio stuff. A simple mixer. Again, you don't need to use any of this stuff, but in future, as you get more professional about things, you may really want to. So, that wraps up this masterclass. I hope it's taught you something useful. You now know everything you need to start making new scenes. Why not go and try making a new game scene from scratch in dream shaping? Find some objects and a character, maybe a piece of music, and publish it. Go on, I dare you.